Your ears are very important to us. Please hold on, and our program will begin shortly. The Soundcheck podcast is coming up. Please continue to hold. Keep up with the Soundcheck podcast and everything that's happening in the New Sounds empire. Just go to newsounds.org and follow us on social media. All of the icons are in the top right corner of the page. All of our other musicians are currently playing for other customers. Please stay with us, and someone will play for you in just a moment. From newsounds.org and the studios of WNYC in New York, welcome to another edition of the Soundcheck podcast series, our live in-studio performance sessions, streaming live on Facebook and YouTube. I'm John Schaefer. Just because you're a classically trained violinist doesn't mean you can only play classical music. And just because you tour with a DJ doesn't mean you can only play hip-hop. Just ask Black Violin. For way over a decade, this duo has been blending the sounds of classical music, hip-hop, and much more, and in the process, breaking down stereotypes, both musical and racial. Their latest album is called Take the Stairs, and Black Violin is here, and they're going to start us off with an older song called Brandenburg. That is Black Violin live here in our studio with a song called Brandenburg. Let me introduce you to the members of Black Violin. Kev Marcus, who is indeed playing a sort of black violin.
Yeah, kind of.
What little of the body there is to this space-age version of the instrument seems to be black.
Yes, yes.
Will B, on the other hand, is not playing a violin at all. Hey, Will.
Hey, how you doing?
That is a...
Viola.
Viola.
Yes, sir.
Now, when you guys, we've got DJ SPS and drummer Nat Stokes playing as well.
Right.
Will, when you guys go to classrooms, do you both have a bit of explaining to do about what these instruments are?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people, like, everyone knows what a violin is. Everyone's heard of a violin, but no one has heard of viola. So it's always like, what is that big thing? It looks like a big violin on your shoulder. So, but the easiest way I explain it is like, it's the difference between soprano and alto, you know, if you're a vocalist or whatever. So most people tend to understand that, you know.
Right. And for you, Kev, you know, this is not the violin that most kids, if they're lucky enough to even have access to a violin, will get a chance to handle.
No, it's not. This is electric violin I play. I mean, you know, we don't look like violinists. I don't want my violin to look like a violin. We kind of want everything to be sort of something familiar, but you know, nothing that you expect. So
Okay.
that's the point.
Let me ask you to explain I don't look like a violinist. What do you mean by that?
Well, when I was growing up, you know, I thought of like, you know, violin as sort of like, I don't know, it seemed like this faraway thing. Before I started playing it, it seemed like something that was very difficult. People that look like me normally don't play it, you know. Normally, you know, people think that even though I walk around with a violin case at the airport, they think I'm playing like a bass, you know. They're like, is that a bass or is that keys or is that trombone? So they just generally don't think that like 285-pound, 6'2" black guy would play it, you know? So that's what I mean by it. Not that I can't do it. It's just more about, you know, we just don't normally see it much. And that's kind of what made me run to it. It's just that like we're not supposed to do it. And I love doing things I'm not supposed to do.
Huh. Now, so did either of you have the opportunity when you were in like grammar school to have these instruments, you know, be a part of your lives?
Yeah, he started fairly early, 5th grade, I believe. I started when I was, you know, about 8th grade. You know, I started kind of late, but I think we both kind of fell in love with it early on when we were able to express ourselves with this instrument. And I think that was key. And hip hop had a lot to do with it because that's what hip hop is all about, expressing yourself and being who you are. And that had a lot of, and also just kept us playing the instrument. You know, we run into a lot of people that's like, you know, I used to play in 10th grade or 5th grade, but I quit, you know. For us, the only difference is we just never stopped. We always had a reason to keep going, you know.
Well, now, you have this new album out called Take the Stairs, but let me ask you about a song from the previous record. It's called Stereotypes.
Yes.
And, I mean, that seems to be kind of a statement of intent with Black Violin.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, like, you know, the idea was really, you know, kind of a play on words, you know, where the type of music you put in stereos, you know, but it's really mostly about like, you know, the fact that we aren't supposed to do it is why we should do it, you know? And I think that the general message that, you know, now 4 years later after that album's been out, the general message that I feel like we're giving with that is just, you know, run towards the thing that makes you different, you know? If you are a young lady and they say, oh, women aren't supposed to do this, then not only should you do it, but you should be more feminine than anyone that's ever tried it because that's the thing that makes you different, you know? So it's like with us, you know, stereotypically, you know, normally it's, you know, Asian or, you know, white, you know, you don't
Eastern
normally see Eastern European.
Right.
You don't normally see like African Americans from South Florida in the hood, you know, play the violin. So when people would say, well, how's that going to work? You know, we were like, oh, well, we're just going to bring all of our culture into it, well, while still respecting the classical side, you know? And that's kind of why it works, is because we take stereotypes and we make them work for us, you know? The things that seem like they shouldn't work, we just flip them and then maximize that. And then that's why it works.
All right, two things real quick, because before we get too far away from Brandenburg, let's give credit where due. That's you're quoting from the first movement of the Bach Brandenburg Concerto Number 3.
That is correct, yes.
I would think the third movement of the Brandenburg Number 3 would be like a great thing to play for kids.
Definitely. I mean, you know, the reason why we did
because it's like rock and roll from 300 years ago.
Yeah, you know, like, you know, when Bach was DJing, you know, that's how we think about it. Like, you know, go up to Bach, like, look, I need something to, get the party going, get the service going. But yeah, that's Brandenburg Concerto Number 3. I think the reason why we chose it is because we played it when we were young, and a lot of young musicians, like if you get to 2-3 years in, you're gonna play that piece. So it's something kind of nostalgic about it. As soon as you hear it, you're like, oh, I remember that, or I know that, or So we wanted to kind of do a play on something that everyone knows, and also, it's one of the first pieces we ever did together. It's the first song on our first album, right? And so, so it gave you guys a throwback.
So then the other thing I wanted to follow up on, Will, when you guys, I know you do a lot of playing for kids,
Right.
When you're in a classroom setting or somewhere where you have a whole bunch of young kids, maybe they're kids from an underserved community. Do they realize that those stereotypes exist? Are they, is there a point at which you can get them before, that kind of thing filters down?
Well, it's there. It's in the air, so they definitely understand it. They see it. They feel it. I think a lot of it is just there's such a disconnect when it comes to just the classical world and when it comes to different cultures. You know what I mean? So. And when the kids see us perform, because what typically happens is they'll bust the kids in the theater, and so we'll be performing for 1,000, 1,500, 2,500 kids, and they tell them they're coming to this violin concert, so they have no idea what they're expecting. You know what I mean? So here comes these two tall black guys, playing violin over hip hop songs that they can relate to. So it's almost just like, wow, it's not as boring as I thought it was gonna be. You know what I mean? So
relief is the emotion you're going for, is what you're telling me.
right. And we have their attention for about an hour. What's amazing about it is like they completely will bring down or drop down their guard. You know what I mean? So for that hour, we can talk to them. We can let them know, listen, it's really not about the violin. It's about taking something that you have a passion for and take it to another level. Make it different. The way that we have, that's the whole point of this whole idea of classical meets hip hop, Black Violin, take the stereo. That's what it's all about. Be passionate and do something different with it.
So when you guys come back to New York in the spring, March 24th at the Gramercy Theater, who's the audience for that likely to be?
It's kind of everybody, we either have every demographic or no demographic. I don't know how you think about it, but it's just everyone, man. Like, you come in, there's like 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds dancing in the aisles. Afterwards, there's like, 75, 80-year-old people like with their hands in the air at the end. It's it's black, white, purple, green. It's just a big mix of everybody. And it's just the violin. A, I don't know many people that don't like it, and B, we're the kind of group that like if you say what kind of music do you like, and you're like, I like a little bit of everything, then we're perfect for you. We play a little bit of everything, and so it's there's something for everybody, and it's always a good time, and it's always a very unifying experience because in some ways you get at the Gramercy you get 600-700 people in a room that normally wouldn't be in a room together. Especially not on something that's for entertainment or leisure, and Black Violin, that's just kind of how it goes.
Well, it's also interesting, the idea that you've got these original songs that you've written, and the hip hop beat is there, so it sounds current, and it moves along, and before you know it, there's like Tchaikovsky or Elgar or Dvorak, and you kind of slip in a little music education on these people, not necessarily even kids, grown-ups too. And the next two songs you're going to do for us are kind of that idea in action, right?
Right, exactly.
So you're going to start with, on the record it's called Serenade. It's from Tchaikovsky's Serenade for Strings.
That is correct.
Yep.
And then the appropriately named Show Off, where you guys get a chance to do just that.
Exactly.
Yes.
All right, shall we hear it?
Yes.
Let's do it.
We're listening to Black Violin. Their latest album is called Take the Stairs. Here's a couple of live performances. Show Off. Show Off is the name of that from Black Violin. We also heard Serenade, based on the Tchaikovsky Serenade for Strings. Both of those pieces appear on the new Black Violin record called Take the Stairs. And once again, Kev Marcus and Will B are the members of Black Violin, with DJ SPS and Nat Stokes behind our drum kit. And so far, everything that you guys have played has been instrumental. Is that, Kev, is that a new kind of thing, especially for younger audiences, to experience music that doesn't have words?
I guess, it's still like, for as far as younger audience is concerned, especially like that last one, it's probably, the beat and the production of it it's so 2019, it's so, even though there's no words to it and we're playing violins, they can still, they're sitting in their seats, they're still nodding. It's like we're still speaking your language even though we are not saying any words, and in songs like that. But of course we do say words too, so, it's a nice little blend. So.
Right, and Will, you sing as well, and we'll be doing so in a moment. When did you guys first perform as Black Violin?
Let's see, a lot of...
Very first show ever?
Probably some club in Miami, like some local... just like, hey, we got these two black guys going to Rocket Club.
And when would that have been?
2000. I'll say 2002.
Wow.
Yeah.
2002. Yeah.
So several years before the first record came out.
Yeah. We were building that. We were in 2002. We were like, eating ramen noodles. We were, starving college kids in an apartment in Miramar, Florida.
Okay.
And it's just like all our boys come by. We built a studio like slowly from scratch, and then we were just making beats and then, signing artists, and then eventually we would just back the artist up, and they'll be like, hey, but what's going on in the back? Who are those black guys playing violin and they don't have any sheet music, and it's just crazy. And then that just kind of spilt into, like, how do we take this to another level? And 17 years later, We're still playing.
Right.
So you've been doing this a long time. What, if anything, has changed?
I think growth is the right word. I think. I mean, obviously, change is good. Some change is good, but I think we've grown a lot. I think this album really displays a lot of growth, not only just as artists but as individuals as well. There's a lot of different topics on this album that we both can relate to, and I think it's a good thing. I think change is great. Change is good. You know what I'm saying? As long as you embrace it, embrace the change.
And have you noticed, same question, but from another point of view, have you noticed a change in, a younger generation of, communities who are not served by classical music? I mean, do you know the Sphinx organization?
Right.
Yeah, I'm an alumni of the Sphinx.
Are you really?
Yeah, I'm 17 years old. I was a semifinalist, went to Ann Arbor, did the whole thing.
Just quick explanation of.
So the Sphinx organization is basically it's an organization for Black and Latino string players, and there's 2 divisions, and they have a competition every year, and they select 9 people in the 9 young kids under 18 for the junior division, and then they select I think 10 for the senior division, and I was in the junior division at the time, and if you get selected, you get a free summer music camp scholarship. So I ended up going to Encore that year, and I didn't win it, but it was still really an amazing experience, and and just to be like one of the top 9 that actually was in it, it was really cool, and they've been very supportive of us ever since. So we're very familiar with Aaron Dorkin and everybody at the Sphinx and what they're doing.
Isn't Aaron? He's a MacArthur Fellow, I think. The
believe
so-called
so.
Genius
Yes,
Award.
I
Yeah,
believe I saw that.
very well deserved.
Very well deserved.
So, do you feel something changing? I mean,
I do. I think so. I mean, it's particularly because of the internet and social media. I think it's not as far away as it used to be. You know what I mean? I think there's a lot of and what we do is we bridge the gap, and I think that has a lot to do with it. Just the idea of like classical music. I think a lot of kids are now, they're interested now. You know what I'm saying? Like if they hear something, Mozart piece, they may not have that same reaction that they did, maybe 5-10 years ago. So I think there is a change, but it's for us it's a huge change, but I think overall it's moving in the right direction. I think, and particularly the genre in classical music needs it desperately. You know what I mean? It needs to engage these young generations, these young kids that are just they're hungry for it. Honestly, they love it, they want it, but for so long, classical music as a culture has always been this distant. That guy that's on a mountain that's just sipping his tea and eating the fanciest food, you know what I mean? And it's like that guy wants to be alone, I guess. But it's like it's about time he comes down and just enjoy the company of other people,
Yeah. You mentioned Mozart. It's like I've lost track of how many television commercials that part of the Mozart Requiem gets used in all the time. It's like car commercials and stuff. So people are exposed to this music, and they go, what was that music in that car commercial online? And then they find out it's Mozart, and DJs have been sampling contemporary classical music since the early 90s. So all this stuff is in the air. So it does seem like the time is ripe for something like what you guys are doing.
Yeah, I mean, I just think that, like, in general, since I've been my 30 years playing violin, I feel that the classical community hasn't done a really good job educating young audiences. So anyone that's my age, if you've been to a classical concert, you're probably in the minority, but you may be exposed to it from like car commercials or like Watchmen. It's like so much Mozart Requiem and Lacrimosa and everything like that. Different television shows, but I feel like the classical community needs to, embrace things like us and, do different things because, you got to kind of bring out a hand to the younger community. Otherwise, the classical community is just going to die.
Well, also, if you want to have Black and Latino people in your symphony orchestra concerts, you might want to have a few of them up on stage.
Exactly.
Exactly.
But you have to educate the youngest audience so that they can grow up and want to do that.
Exactly.
So that's the thing about it.
Yeah. All right. It sounds like a daunting mission, but that seems to be my segue to get Will to this next song called Impossible is Possible. I mean, is that, optimism seems to be the currency of this record.
Well, yeah, absolutely. I mean, we need it, man. Oh, my God, do we need it? You know what I mean? So it doesn't hurt, and the whole album is based on just the idea of hope. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just the idea that, what does that look like? What does that sound like? And this song is like the perfect testament to that idea of hope. Impossible is possible.
Let's hear another live performance from Black Violin.
There's a moment when you realize all the things they said were lies. You gotta open up your eyes, 'cause we were made to fly. We can do anything. We shine like the sun, the moon, the stars. We can go anywhere. They see us no matter where we are. Hey, 'cause we got the fire. Oh, oh. Hey, 'cause we got the fire. Oh. Let's show the world the impossible is possible. Let's show the world the impossible is possible. Oh. Hey. There's a moment when you understand. You don't gotta follow all the plans. Hey, you gotta open up your hands. Don't leave it up to chance. We can do anything, come on. We shine like the sun, the moon, the stars. We can go anywhere. They see us no matter where we are. Hey, 'cause we got the fire. Oh. Hey, 'cause we got the fire. Oh, oh. Hey. Tell Mark to suck with Let's show the world the impossible is possible. 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 Oh. Hey. We can do anything. We shine like the sun, the moon, the stars. We can go anywhere. They see us no matter where we are. Hey, 'cause we got the fire. Yes, we do. Hey, 'cause we got the fire. Thank you.
Impossible is Possible. That's the name of the song from the latest album by Black Violin called Take the Stairs, although obviously you've just heard and perhaps seen a live performance of it as we're streaming live on Facebook and YouTube. It is Friday, December 13th. I'm told by producer Karen in the control room that today is World Violin Day.
Really?
I had no idea either.
Wow.
But I kind of expected you might, Kev. I mean, come on.
Happy World Violin Day, everyone.
I mean, who could keep up with all these
I know.
random holidays
Hey,
and stuff?
look.
There is a National Toilet Day.
No.
I
Stop
think it's
it.
sometime in November or something.
What
like
do you
that.
do on that day?
I do not even want to know. But today is today is World
right.
Violin Day.
All right. Well, happy
this
World
is fitting.
Violin Day. I like it. I like it a lot.
So, you guys, you write, you arrange, you play, you sing. There doesn't seem like a whole lot of need for outside producers, but Salam Remy is on 2 tracks of this new. Now, people will remember his work with Amy Winehouse and Nas, and the list goes on and on. So, what was that process like?
Oh man, that was an amazing process. We're a huge fan of his because we still listen to classic records that he actually produced. So it was amazing being in that studio, just vibing. Honestly, that session was just the most creative, I think. One of the most creative because we're literally just sitting down in his studio jamming. You know what I mean? Like one of the songs, what's it called? Lost in the Garden.
Yeah.
And that's basically just came off of just like vibing, listening to music. Like we're listening to a lot of Curtis Mayfield and Dvorak, just listening to classical music, just listening to a lot of different things. And then we would just like turn everything on and start jamming. You know what I mean? So
Well, the song Al Green,
right.
actually quotes from one of the Slavonic dances by
Exactly.
Dvorak.
Yeah,
And-
which is crazy, like, because I remember we played, like, I had this playlist to just save, it's an inspiration playlist, and I call it Project Next, and I have another one for the next album,
Okay.
just always just kind of storing things, and we just played Slavonic dances, and we just played it for him, and he was like, man, it'd be crazy if we put like some funky bass line underneath, and he just started playing a bass line, and then we put the Slavonic dances on it, and you would never think that Dvorak would mix with something like an Al Green type bass line, but the way that Salam did it and the way we kind of came about with it is just awesome. And then that the whole song, like, the only thing it has really is a viola solo. Like, that's it. It's just viola. It's no violin on it besides the Slavonic dance part. And it made me think, I don't know if I've ever heard like a popular viola solo type of song. You know what I mean? I think that it's like this is one of the first times ever. So we wanted to do that and be a first, and it's just such a cool vibe. Like, go check that song out. It's like one of the deeper cuts that that people really seem to dig.
All right, well, we'll do that. And in the meantime, I want to thank the two of you, actually the whole band, Kev and Will and DJ SPS and Nat behind the drums. Thank you so much for coming in and playing for us, and enjoy your holidays.
Thank
you. You
Happy
too.
World Violin Day, everyone.
This is Soundcheck.